Wednesday, January 18. Tithing on the gross or the net income. We calculate our tithe on our income, if we are paid by the hour or by a salary, and we pay on our increase or profit if we are self-employed and have our own business. In many countries, the government takes out taxes from the workers' pay to cover the cost of services done for the people, such as security, roads and bridges, unemployment benefits, and so on. The question of gross or net primarily involves whether we return tithe on our income before or after such taxes are taken out. Those who are self-employed can legitimately deduct the cost of doing business in order to determine their actual profit before their personal taxes are deducted. Studies of membership's giving habits reveal that the majority of Seventh-day Adventists tithe on the gross income, that is, before taxes are taken out. In fact, according to the Tithing Principles and Guidelines published by the General Conference in 1990, tithe should be computed on the gross amount of a wage or salary earner's income before legally required or other employee-authorised deductions. This includes federal and state income taxes, which provide for services and other benefits of responsible citizenship. Contributions to Social Security may be subtracted, as we see in Guidelines 111-F. And that's from page 22 of Tithing Principles and Guidelines published by the General Conference. Read 1 Kings 17, verses 9 to 16. What was the widow's situation before Elijah came to her? What did the prophet ask her to do before taking care of herself and her son? And what can we learn from this account about the question at hand? 1 Kings chapter 17, beginning at verse 9. Arise, go to Zarephath, which belongs to Sidon, and dwell there. See, I have commanded a widow there to provide for you. So he arose and went to Zarephath. And when he came to the gate of the city, indeed a widow was there gathering sticks. And he called to her and said, Please, bring me a little water in a cup that I may drink. And as she was going to get it, he called to her and said, Please, bring me a morsel of bread in your hand. So she said, As the Lord your God lives, I do not have bread, only a handful of flour in a bin and a little oil in a jar. And see, I am gathering a couple of sticks that I may go in and prepare for myself and my son, that we may eat it and die. And Elijah said to her, Do not fear, go and do as you have said, but make me a small cake from it first, and bring it to me, and afterward make some for yourself and your son. For thus says the Lord God of Israel, The bin of flour shall not be used up, nor shall the jar of oil run dry, until the day the Lord sends rain on the earth. So she went away and did according to the word of Elijah, and she and he and her household ate for many days. The bin of flour was not used up, nor did the jar of oil run dry, according to the word of the Lord, which he spoke by Elijah. The widow of Zarephath was told by God that a man of God was coming to see her, as we read in verse 9. When Elijah arrived, she explained her dire circumstances. Elijah first asked for a drink of water and then added, Do not fear, go and do as you have said, but make me a small cake from it first, and bring it to me, and afterward make some for yourself and your son. For thus says the Lord God of Israel, The bin of flour shall not be used up, nor shall the jar of oil run dry, until the day the Lord sends rain on the earth. We read that in verses 13 and 14. Was this selfishness on his part? Or was he simply testing her faith? In fact, allowing her to exercise her faith? The answer should be obvious. As we've been told in Testimonies for the Church, Volume 4, page 469, everyone is to be his own assessor and is left to give as he purposes in his heart. And so to finish today, how do you explain to someone who has never given tithe the blessings that come from giving it? What are those blessings? And how does returning tithe strengthen your faith? This lesson was read by Dr. Percy Harrold for Christian Services for the Blind. Sponsored by the Sabbath School Department and distributed through Hope Channel Australia, this podcast is also redistributed by Hope Channel Germany, Christian Record Services for the Blind. It is also available on SoundCloud and through multiple podcast distributors, including Apple iTunes. And you can listen and watch at the same time on YouTube. Remember, God is always faithful. And here is a disclaimer. Contents of these lessons are not intended to be financial advice, but is general commentary based on biblical principles. The reader is encouraged to seek competent professional advice which will suit their particular personal situation.